Hello everyone, welcome back. And today in this video, I wanted to talk more about some Barcelona news that we're seeing in the media currently. There's some talk about Rafael, which is just funny. Chiesa as well. I wanted to talk more about Ilkay Gundogan leaving, and Vitor Roque also looks set to leave this summer. So there's definitely some interesting stuff to talk about. So I wanted to get into all of that today. And I'll start with Rafael just to get that out of the way. He is not coming. There's absolutely zero chance that he is joining Barcelona this summer. I think it'd be a very exciting signing, but it's just not going to happen. There is no chance that Barcelona would be able to afford someone for $100 million. And given the circumstances that they're in right now, they can't register their players. So Rafael is completely off the table. But an interesting name for that left wing position is Federico Chiesa from Juventus. And Thiago Motta basically confirmed that he was out of his plans as he took over as the Juventus coach this summer, and he doesn't want Chiesa in his squad. So there are some rumors that Barcelona would be interested in signing him, and of course his transfer fee would be around $10 million, which is cheap. And given the player that Chiesa was a couple years ago, which key emphasis on a few years ago, Chiesa was great. Of course, the Euros, the 2020 Euros that he had, the song that he had, he was so great for that Italian national team. And of course with Juventus as well, he looked like such an exciting prospect. But that very bad injury that he had, obviously, I just don't think he's gotten back to the levels that we saw before that injury. That's very unfortunate for him. But it seems similar to the Ansu Fati situation where, maybe on his day he still does have a lot of talent. But do you want to buy another injury-prone left winger when you already have Ansu Fati? That seems like both of them are a little bit risky and kind of in the same situation to me, where they did have a lot of talent, they had a very bad injury, and then they just haven't gotten back to those levels. So would it really be an upgrade in that position? That's to be seen, but Chiesa for around $10 million, it's interesting, but I just don't think it solves the problems for that left wing position. I think the pros, at his absolute ceiling, I think he could definitely be a good addition this summer, but in the end, you just don't want to buy a player that's injury prone, that's not going to make a direct impact right away. I don't know, maybe you all have different feelings about that, but for me, Chiesa, it's an interesting topic, I think, but of course, we were all so excited with Nico Williams, and I think speaking for me personally, I'll just be pretty disappointed with anyone they sign that isn't Nico Williams because I think he just would have fit in perfectly at Barcelona. So maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on Chiesa, but I just think that injury record, maybe he's not the player that Barcelona needs this summer. I could be wrong about this timeline, but I think La Liga's transfer window, it closes in around 10 to 15 days. Is that enough time for Barcelona to make another signing? In my opinion, I don't think so. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news because I'm sure some Barca fans do want to see another signing join the club this summer. I do not think it's going to happen. I think there's a heavy emphasis currently on registering their players, registering their new signing, Dani Olmo, and also offloading some players that they know that the salary is going to be really bad if they're not able to at least sell or get a couple players off their payroll. So Chiesa for $10 million, I could see that being a realistic option rather than Rafael for $100 million. That's absolutely not going to happen. But Chiesa for $10 million, there's not much risk there, but I just don't know if it's really going to solve the problems in that left wing position. But at his best, I think Chiesa could be a great player, but the injury problems, I just don't know if that's the right idea to add another player that can't consistently start 40, 50 games for Barcelona and just hasn't been at the level that he was, unfortunately, after that injury. So I don't know what you all think about that, but Chiesa for $10 million, I think it'd be decent for the options that Barcelona have because it's either not make another signing for that left wing position or Chiesa for $10 million. I'm honestly either way. I'm pretty indifferent about it, but Chiesa, I just haven't watched enough of him to make a concrete decision about if I'd be excited to see him join the club. It's interesting, but honestly, I could see Barcelona just not signing anyone else this transfer window. And the next player that I wanted to talk about is Vitor Roque because it now seems like he slid down the pecking order, and it seems likely that he's going to be leaving this summer. Lewandowski's in front of him. Pau Victor is now in front of him. And so there's really no point in him staying at the club this summer. And I think, realistically, the best plan for his career is for him to leave on loan. Not only because Barcelona, it lessens the salary that they have to pay someone that's probably not going to be getting very many minutes, but also for his career because the most important thing is to play. To progress as a player and to adapt to a new league, you want to see that player play. And Vitor Roque, Barcelona just cannot offer that to him currently, given the competition in the number 9 position. And also, it just does not seem like either Hansi Flick or Xavi have really counted on him and wanted him to start many games. So Real Betis does seem like the club that Vitor Roque is going to join this summer. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with this move. I did not want him to leave on loan. I wanted him to be the backup striker. But seeing Pau Victor start in front of him, I understood that decision from Hansi Flick because Pau Victor looks great in preseason, and I think he's just going to count on him more. So Vitor Roque, rather than riding the bench for 9 months, would you go and start and potentially start a couple games and at least be a good rotation player for Real Betis, which is a good team in La Liga, which I think can be decent. They can finish, maybe top half of the table. So it's good experience for Vitor Roque, and I think realistically that's the best move just for Barcelona and for his career because there are also some talks that he was going to leave to Sporting for around $30 million on a permanent fee. but I would much rather see him leave on loan, so at least Barcelona have the opportunity to see Vitor Roque at some point maybe reach his full potential, because if they sell him, of course, that cash would definitely help Barcelona in this current situation, but I just think letting him leave on loan, you would get to see the player that Vitor Roque could potentially become, rather than just see him sold to Sporting and maybe he doesn't turn out to be the player that you want him to, and then you have that 30 million guaranteed. I understand it's less risky, but I just would like to see Barcelona at least somewhat believe in Vitor Roque. And I think Vitor Roque, he does want to succeed at Barcelona, even given the way that the club has treated him. So, Real Betis, Vitor Roque, I think that's a good idea. Honestly, I'd be very happy to see that. I'd love to watch a couple games that he plays in La Liga as well, just to see how he's doing and how he progresses. So I'm excited about this move. Honestly, for Vitor Roque, I think it's the best idea. And the next player that I wanted to talk about is Andreas Christensen, because just today we saw some rumors that Barcelona were listening to offers for him, and maybe there was an offer from Newcastle. I don't know exactly the fee. I would think between 15 to maybe 25 million for Christensen. I really hope Barcelona do not think about that, because I just think the center back depth, I mean, you're going into the season, and Cubarsí, Inigo Martinez, and Christensen, those are your three center backs. Eric Garcia as well. Seemed like Hansi Flick was maybe going to play him in midfield. But Ronald Araujo is out for 4 to 6 months. So until December, if you sell Andreas Christensen, the two center backs really that you have at the club are Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez. Is that enough for Barcelona if they want to compete for the top trophies? And that's given the fact that those two can stay healthy. Imagine one or both of those players get injured. I mean, you're going to have so many academy players playing for Barcelona's first team if you continue to just offload your players, that your consistent players. I think Christensen, there were some injury concerns before he joined Barcelona, but I definitely think he's been able to play a good amount of games each season. I think he's been very consistent. I don't really think he puts a foot wrong. I think sometimes maybe he can be a bit passive in his defending, but there are just some defenders that are like that. That's their style. I think he's great with the ball in possession. He's very good. And also he was able to step into midfield for Barcelona last season and do the job there. So I definitely don't think it's a player that Barcelona should look to offload, especially given the injury problems. You need players at the club that are in good years of their career. You don't want to rely on 17-year-olds every single game. That's not how a top serious club should be operating, even though you have so much talent in the academy. But Christensen, I definitely do not want Barcelona to sell him this summer. Not sure if you all are on the same page on that, but yeah, I just think he's a very consistent performer. He's someone that's available for Barcelona, and given the injury problems that they've had, that's a very important thing to have. And then I also wanted to talk more about the Ilkay Gundogan situation, because it's basically confirmed that he is leaving the club this summer and he's not going to make a hassle. He's going to join City, which I think is great for Gundogan. It's great for City. And for Barcelona, I see the positive in letting a player go that you were going to pay 18 million for. And I also wanted to talk about the comments, because I do understand people disagreeing with me and saying that, I see the positive in Ilkay Gundogan leaving the club. And I completely respect your all's decision. I definitely understand that aspect of it, because you don't want a player to overstay their welcome. And then they're, in the last 1 or 2 years of their career, and you're paying them such a high salary. My main problem is it just looks like a mess, because Laporta, he gave him that contract knowing that he was going to be 34 years old. And then Laporta basically said after a year, after Gundogan did very well, I don't think he could have actually done much better last season than he did. And you say, now we don't want you anymore, just after a year. I just don't think you should switch up on someone like that. And it's just, Gundogan, he left Man City after, 8 years at the club, joined Barca, and he knew it was going to be his last 1 to 2 years of his playing career. I just don't like the way, specifically, that Gundogan was treated. I understand, for the club, you want to save 18 million per season, but Gundogan, I just think, given the fact that Barcelona have so many injury-prone players, specifically in the midfield, I just don't think you should sell someone that was one of your most consistent performers and was always available for Barcelona. I just don't think that's the right idea, because, Pedri, unfortunately, he struggles with a lot of injuries. Frankie de Jong, have no clue when he's coming back. Gavi just tore his ACL, so it's going to take a while for him to get back into match rhythm. And then now your midfield, right now, currently, is Marc Bernal, Marc Casado, Fermin Lopez. Those are your midfield. Unless I'm forgetting someone, unless Eric Garcia, you want to count him as a defensive midfielder, that's your midfield for FC Barcelona. So I think Gundogan, we'll just have to wait and see. I think he will be a big miss going into next season, because he was such a consistent performer. He was always available every single week, and that was the most important thing for me, because your midfield is so injury prone. I just don't know if it was the right idea. But I understand, some fans saying it was the right idea from Laporta because he was getting paid so much, but it was Laporta himself that gave him that contract. So that's what I don't really understand. I just more specifically do not like the treatment that Barcelona gave a player as great as Ilkay Gundogan and everything he did to leave Man City, a treble-winning team, to join Barcelona. I just don't like the way that he was treated. And also quickly wanted to talk about this 1-of-1 rule and open it up in the comments, because does anyone understand what's going on here? Because I feel like every single week we see some news reports saying Barcelona are very close to getting back to this 1-of-1 rule. I feel like we've heard that ever since Laporta took over, but it's still happening. I mean, 3 years on, we're still not close to that. I understand it takes a lot of work to get there, but then I just feel like you're splashing money on players that you don't need. If you need to get back to the 1-of-1 rule, wouldn't that be the main priority? And of course, I feel like it's every single week, so I'm just not going to believe that. Of course, I haven't for a while, because it just doesn't seem like it's ever really going to get there. It always seems like you're just one step away, you're so close, it's going to be next week. Never happens. So I hope it does, because I think that'd be very important for Barcelona to get back to the 1-of-1 rule, just for their finances, of course. But we'll just have to wait and see. But as always, thank you very much for watching my video. I do appreciate it. I just want to talk more about some Barcelona news because we saw some stuff about Rafael Leao. Just wanted to shut that down completely. It's just not going to happen. It would be very exciting, but not going to happen. Chiesa, it's interesting. I'll have to talk more about that as well. I'm sure we'll hear more about it. And wanted to talk more about Gundogan and Vitor Roque, Christensen as well. But I'm just so interested in this stuff, and hope you all are as well, because I know Barcelona, they have a lot of stuff going, and whether you like it or not, there's always something to talk about at the club, whether it's positive or negative. Hopefully we hear more positive stuff. But as always, thank you very much. VISCA BARCA. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and see you all later. Peace.